Yeah! All right, I'm going to talk to you guys about power and why that is not the right way to generate it. So when it comes to hitting something hard, or in fact when it comes to hitting something fast, most people mistakenly believe that power and speed are a function of tension. Like you gotta get it done, right? But in reality, speed and power are both actually a function of relaxation and, more importantly, economy of motion. So in that first example, most people would think if I'm going to try to hit Bob really hard with a stick, that I need to go way back here, wind up, and smash it. But if you think about it, that's just intuitively not true, right? You may not know anyone that spends a lot of time, like me, hitting rubber guys with rattan sticks, but I guarantee you somebody in your life knows how to drive a nail. And I promise you, when they drive a nail, especially if they're really good at it, one of these carpenters that like taps the nail to set it and then goes pow and sinks the nail. I can't do that, by the way. You're not going to see them driving nails like this. Tap, set, smash, right? It doesn't happen that way. So one of the things you have to take out of your mind is the idea that we are a rigid weapon. So this stick is a rigid weapon. And generally speaking, people think if you have a rigid weapon, what you do to generate power with it is just swing it as hard as you can. But the reality of the situation is this rigid weapon is attached to this flexible weapon. And if you think about the way that a whip generates power, it transfers motion into an extremely tight, extremely small snap. And in that snap is where all of your speed and power can be found. So instead of going from here all the way over to here, you can kind of tell by how much Bob moves. By the way, there's no water in here. Or maybe there is water in there, and I'm just that strong. So there's no water in here. So if you watch how much Bob moves when I swing like this, okay? Now watch how much Bob moves when I swing like this. You can see it's pretty much the same. I mean, maybe a little difference, but not a whole lot. So why would you want to hit the second way instead of this way? The answer is pretty simple. These are my weapons, but they're also my defenses. I need my defenses to be between me and the bad guy in this situation. Bob's vicious, man. He's a killer. He's going to come get me. And if I'm like this and Bob's fast enough to catch it, I'm in a lot of trouble. It's exactly the same thing if we're boxing as me going like this. And everybody knows you're not supposed to do that, right? We call that telegraphing. A good boxer is going to throw his punches. Yes, I know I'm southpaw boxers. Calm down. A good boxer is going to keep his elbows tucked in, his shoulders raised, his chin tucked, and he's going to rotate with his body, and his hand will not retract. It will drive straight into the target. Boom. Okay? No retraction whatsoever. And if this hand does retract, you hide it in the straightforward motion of that one. Does that make sense? So a good shot has to go bam, straight forward. The same thing is true here. Because Bob's such a killer and he's so fast. You can't tell to look at him, but he's a killer. If I go like this, in that amount of time, I'm providing him an opening with which to attack me. He can close that distance and I can be in a lot of trouble. On the other end, for negligible gains, again, just for science, watch how much Bob moves versus, stop moving, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Right? Not that much difference. I mean, I realize we're just measuring sway, but still, you understand what I'm saying. So, how do you generate power over this distance? More specifically, how do you generate power over this distance that is roughly equivalent to the power that you feel like you can generate over this distance? And the answer to that question comes all the way down to your efficiency of movement. So what you have to do is you have to decide from top to bottom. You kind of have to imagine you, what's the guy that played Gollum? Put on a suit, had lots of little white balls all over it. Motion capture. Imagine that you're in a motion capture machine and try to take this movement and slow it way down as you do it. So go and try to pay attention to everything that moves, from your knees to your feet that shift, if you shuffle step, and you should be, how your shoulders rotate, what happens with your wrist. Try to be hyper aware of all of those movements, and then ask yourself which ones you might be doing that are not contributing to delivering the stick to Bob's neck. And then eliminate those movements. If they're not necessary, don't keep them there. Okay? So that's the first thing that you do. And then the second thing that you do is you relax. Relax, relax, relax. What a lot of people do when they want to hit hard is they white knuckle the stick, and then they like that. And again, that's thinking like your body is made like the stick. There's an inflexible weapon. That's not what your body is. Go back again to the guy driving the nail, right? He has a loose wrist, perhaps even a loose grip. And I mean a wibbly wobbly floppy grip, but I mean this can happen, right? So the stick can pivot in my hand. My hand is moving very little, the stick is moving very much. So what I do as I come out is this part of the acceleration is against my thumb and the bottom of my grip. And then right at the last second, I snap that and snap my wrist. And that, combined with my shoulder turn and my shuffle step, which you might not be able to see, my shuffle step goes like that. And that's very important because what that does is accelerate my entire mass into that shot. So now it's not like I'm going up to Bob and going hit with the stick. It's like I'm holding the stick out and shuffle stepping at the same time and delivering my mass into that attack. I said mass. Mass with an M. Calm down. All right, so when I do this, I go a little bit of a rotation, a little bit of a shuffle step, snap, relaxed, and snap the wrist, and let the stick flick into Bob. So it goes like that. And sometimes you're going to step that way, right? Your footwork, whether you go here or here, is going to depend on the rest of whatever your plan is. If Vic, over there, you can't see Vic, I think he's out of the camera frame, but if Vic is Bob's buddy, let's move Vic over here. Come on, Vic. Okay. Vic does have sand in the bottom. So, now, Bob is the bad guy, and Vic is just his accomplice. He's the guy that, like, he probably doesn't want to start trouble. This guy's the driver for the trouble. But, you know, he'll stick around and I don't know, maybe throw a shot or grab you if he needs to. So, we've got Vic standing here. He's Bob's friend. If I go shuffle step, I'm stepping towards Vic. Probably not a great plan, right? If I shuffle step the other direction as I throw that hit, again, watch Bob's movement, shuffle step. Now, I'm going to move away from Vic instead, and you can watch Bob's movement and see that I'm still hitting just as hard because it's all coming from the shoulders and the hips and the knees and my relaxation and the flick of the wrist. So instead of going to Vic, I go away from Vic. I go, hey man, what are you guys trying to do? And then I line them up as much as I can. Of course, I'm not going to stand there. Wouldn't make a lot of sense to go, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, right. So you wouldn't do that. And okay, so you'll go, well, I'm not walking around when the Bobs and Vics of the world are trying to attack me with rattan sticks. Fair point. So now, instead, I'm going to put my hands up. And this same motion that I deliver with the stick can be delivered empty hand. Now, for those of you out there that go, but I trained to punch, I want to punch things. If you punch, Bob's got a big, soft, rubbery head. But most heads aren't like Bob's big, soft, rubbery head. Most heads are more like Vic's rock hard plastic chest here. And it wouldn't make a lot of sense if you standing here in front of me, you wouldn't go, I'm going to ball my fist up and punch Vic as hard as I can. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We always say hard weapon, soft target, hard target, soft weapon. So again, I'm going to take this motion, this angle 1, and I'm going to apply the same mechanic. If Vic weren't here, I could go, what are you doing, Bob? And bring that hand out there. Bob's not going to be your friend at the end of this exercise, okay? So this isn't one of those, you might want to try, hey man, I don't want any trouble, my friend, calm down. You might want to try that first, because I promise you, if you slap Bob, he's not going to be your friend. And Vic's probably not going to be your friend either. Anyway, you bring your hands up and you shuffle step in, and from a very short distance, very fast, because of that hip rotation, because of the shuffle step, because you've learned to be relaxed, you can deliver a lot of power over a very short distance. Now, I'm trying not to hit Bob too hard, because if you hit Bob too hard, he just tumbles over. Because he's full of water, but I'm very powerful. No, he's totally empty. So I can't hit him real hard or he'll topple over. So I'm just trying to slap lightly. You understand what I'm saying? You can go forward and do the same thing here, or you can go away and do that. And the nice thing about that is because Vic's here, I wouldn't shuffle step in, I'd shuffle step away. I'm still delivering the power, but at the end of that I get to zone off and get Vic further away from me. So I can kind of go, hey man, what are you doing, Bob? And now Bob's between me and Vic. Right? And then I can get real weird and go, kiss. All right, sorry, I went to a strange place. Anyway, so you generate power. I should have done that with a Mike Tyson voice. Now kiss. All right, you generate power with relaxation. You generate power with proper body mechanics. You generate power by eliminating unnecessary movement that does not deliver the attack to its intended target. And you want to develop power from close positions. So when my hands come up, and they darn well better, because if I'm standing here, this is what happens in your typical confrontation. This time, Bob's had too much. He's not starving anymore. So Vic is the bad guy in this situation. So I'm sitting here, and I'm dancing in the discotheque. Yeah, that's how I dance. No. So I'm talking to somebody, and Bob comes over, and he's like, hey, what the average person does is this. Yeah? Yeah. So that's called posturing, right? You've heard of fight or flight? That's a lie. It's fight, flight, freeze, or posturing. And posturing happens more often than anything else. It's basically your body's way of saying, I don't want to fight, and it's trying to talk the other person out of it. It's also building aggression. So when Bob comes over and he goes, or excuse me, not Bob, because he's already been beat up. Vic, when Vic comes over and he goes, hey! I go, what? And I do this. That is a really dumb thing to do. Why? Hands down, chin out, shoulders back. This is begging for a knockout. And if you don't believe me, go look up like every instance of some guy getting knocked out on YouTube or World Star Hip Hop or wherever the cool kids are posting knockout videos now. And you'll see chin out, shoulders back, chest up. That's how you get knocked out. So what I have to do is bring my hands up to a guard the moment there's a problem. And you're going to feel silly if someone goes, hey, and it just happened to be like an aggressive salesman. Maybe Vic's not a jerk. Maybe Vic was just like some guy that I saw at the car dealership, and he sees me in the bar and he thinks, hey, this will be clever. So he comes over and goes, hey! So it would be a little weird for him to go, hey, and for me to go, well, what are you doing? Right? It wouldn't make a lot of sense. So when he goes, hey, what I recommend is you go, hey, how's it going? I'm scared of you, big weirdo. You know, something along those lines. But bring your hands up. Bring your hands up, bring your elbows forward. Try to start bringing your shoulders up like this. Like that. The body posture is the same as a church hug, right? If I'm going to go in and hug, you go in for a hug at church, you don't go like this, right? That'd be a weird church hug. You go in and you leave some space for Jesus. Isn't that what they say, right? Come here and go like this. Oh, it's so good to see you. Now look at my shoulder position. That's the same shoulder position as my boxing stance. So chin down, hands up, and I go, whoa. Oh, what's that? Oh, hey, you weird car salesman guy. It's good to see you again. All right, I'll see you later. Hope you guys have a good night. Right? That's the idea. But my point is, if that suddenly turns hostile, you can't go, okay? Number one, this isn't Dragon Ball Z. And number two, you're not Goku, nor are you over 9,000. So when you do this, your hands come up. You need to develop the proficiency to deliver those shots from where your hands are. Drive them forward. That's super important because this is where you can defend yourself. My wife, Siku Adrian, says these are your dogs and this is your fence, right? You've got two awesome, well-trained dogs. You spent years training your dogs. This is your fence. If you let your dogs out of the fence, then when the bad guy comes to your front door, your dogs can't help you. So you got to keep your dogs in the fence. Don't run all over the neighborhood like one of those old Family Circus cartoons where everyone's like dotted lines everywhere, right? Keep them in tight, throw from there. Practice that, not by trying to use power, but by perfecting the economy, the efficiency of the motion. Hands up. You can do this at home with like a light switch. It's going to look weird. I do this in the grocery store all the time. I promise it looks weird, and it is what it is. So I'm kind of standing in line. I'll put my hands up like this, and I'll go like that. It looks weird, but hey, Adrian, what do you think about this magazine? It's my weird thing, but at any rate, you can do this anywhere. Just practice going step and shift and move and just eliminating everything that isn't delivering the hand from where it is. Hey man, I don't want any trouble. To trouble. Okay? All right. So that's how you generate power. Remember, full of water, super strong. Peace.